me this morning, but if anyone wasn't here, I'm Mark, CEO of Civo. And welcome to our talk. Thanks for the introduction, the kind introduction, Simon. We're excited to have you on board as well. Certainly seek out, we've got some of our team here if you want to seek out and learn more about Civo's products and things. Then certainly people like Simon and anyone else in the blue jerseys as well. Speak to them. But today, we're here to talk about innovation and sustainability. I'm going to touch on some of the things that Civo are actually doing to really further innovation, but also with an eye on that sustainability thing. And I'm joined on stage with Josh and Dinesh, our Chief Innovation Officer, Josh, and Chief Technical Officer, Dinesh, who will be joining us in a minute. But before we get into things, I just want to set the scene and highlight some of the biggest challenges that we're currently facing in our industry. So firstly, I want to highlight a fairly worrying statistic, and I'm sure many of you are probably aware of this, but a 2024 report from the International Energy Agency says that data centers consumed 460 terawatts of power in 2022, and that's set to more than double by 2026 in a worst case scenario. And to put that into perspective, Germany uses around 500 terawatts a year as a country. So this is going to be double the figure of the whole of Germany that's going to be, be used in data centers. And as we all know, that's probably, it is to do with this AI boom that we're currently in and that we're experiencing. And but my concern is that are we stopping to think for a minute? We're kind of rushing into this AI boom. And we're building apps and doing things, and you've got all these giant companies deploying huge models and building data centers. And are we stopping to think around the impact of this, and in terms of the sustainability, but also it's not just about buying green energy. What about all the impact of taking away energy from the grid? Grids are struggling to actually provide enough electricity. Housing projects are getting cancelled now, things like that, those knock-on effects if we don't do something about that. So I think it's really important that we understand the consequences of the actions that we're taking right now. And that's something that we're really passionate about at Civo. And I also want to highlight some of the other challenges that I'm sure, again, many of you might be aware of, on top of those kind of, I mentioned about this first of all. These are some of the headlines that you may have come across in terms of the hyperscalers, and they're all missing their targets when it comes to emissions. And they're all admitting this at the moment. Many of them, like Microsoft, had a target of 2030 to be carbon negative, and already they're off course with that, and they're actually using burning more carbon than ever. And some of the other challenges that we face is worth highlighting. And I personally think cloud confidence is pretty low right now. And this survey from IDC kind of highlights this, because 71% of respondents to this IDC survey said that they're going to be moving some or all of their workloads away from the cloud. So that really highlights that we had this rush to the cloud and we thought it was going to be brilliant, but then sometimes things haven't quite panned out how we expected. And I personally think this is to do with the way that hyperscalers are behaving right now. And I think this is to do with a lack of control. And we're really forced to play by the hyperscalers' rules. And examples of this are, costs keep on rising. And there's been lots of documented evidence to show that costs keep going up and up and up, and price increases by hyperscale providers. People are locked into proprietary technology, and you just can't seamlessly move. Quite often we talk about this kind of multi-cloud world, but it never really becomes a reality because we're kind of locked into a single provider. We've got these high egress fees that if you do want to leave providers, you can't switch easily. And I remember years ago when I first started in tech, it used to be a time when the hosting company you went to, you kind of you had FTP, you had all your HTML files, you'd upload them to your provider using FTP. And if for some reason your provider let you down, you'd simply take those same files and you'd FTP them up to someone else. And it was that simple. And now fast forward 25 years and suddenly it's really complicated. You're locked in proprietary technology. You can't move providers. It's almost impossible to some degree. And we believe in changing that, more of an open ecosystem. You've got these really complex billing structures as well in terms of, can anyone accurately predict what their cloud bills might be? I don't think so. And we kind of have all these consultants now that we pay huge amounts of fees to try and work out if we need to reduce our bills and where we can reduce our bills. There's software out there in a FinOps community that's trying to make sense of all these bills. And it's crazy that it's got to that point, really. Lack of transparency on privacy. Again, going back to hyperscalers, do we really know where data is flowing? We talk a lot about sovereign cloud and things like that. But even in the UK recently, I think it was Microsoft admitted that the police force data was flowing across borders. And they admitted that. And they hadn't actually protected that data and kept it sovereign within the UK. So there's a real lack of this kind of trust and privacy. And there's way too much complexity. I don't know if it's a show of hands, but if anyone's used a hyperscaler, do you find it easier to kind of spin up services and use them and consume them and get everything deployed nice and easily? Probably not. But I believe it shouldn't be this way. And the control should be with the user. It shouldn't be with the cloud company, the hyperscaler. And I think it should become more like a utility. If you whatever utility we use, whether it's power, water, we can turn it on and off when we want. We can actually switch providers fairly easily if we're not happy with them, and we should be consuming it in a more of a utility-based way. So you might ask, what's Civo doing about that? And we're working hard to try and change that. And certainly, I don't believe that it should be that way. And I want to talk about our why. And has anyone heard about the Simon Sinek talk? Has anyone seen this? Show of hands, maybe, about start with the why. And I'd certainly recommend you watch this. It's available on. It's a TED talk he did on YouTube. It's available on YouTube, and he's got a book about start with the why. And for those of you who haven't come across this concept, it's really about, he suggests that all great companies start with the why. And that's really about defining their purpose and telling the story through their purpose. Most companies start with the what, and they can't telling you about all the great features and benefits they have for their products, and not really about the why and the purpose. So if you get a chance to watch that, I would recommend it. And I think that you can almost apply that to your own purpose as well. Why do you get out of bed to go to work every day, and what gets you excited? So I think aligning yourself to a company that has a joint purpose that you believe in, you're always going to give your best performance, your best work, and have the passion and enjoy your work. So I think that's really important. So I just wanted to talk about our why, and I've got it up on screen there, that we believe that innovation has the power to transform lives and make the world a better place. And I'm doing a talk tomorrow, which goes into this in a lot more detail, so I'm only going to touch on this briefly. But I do believe the current status quo of the hyperscale providers, as I mentioned, is not great. And our purpose is to be more than profits. I think we've got a bigger purpose, and it's about doing the right thing. I have 2 young kids as well, and I'm personally motivated to leave the world in a better place for my kids, and that's really important to me. And I think we can do better as an industry. And going back to what I was saying about this rush to AI, we're not thinking about all the consequences of our actions that are happening now. We all enjoy it. We all want to consume AI, and there's benefits to it. But are we just stopping for a moment to think about the impacts of that? And just moving on a little bit with Simon Sinek, he talks about the why, the how, and the what. I'll just briefly run through how we're doing it. So firstly, we define norms. We want to build innovative products, and we want to do it in our own way that defies the norms and the status quo of hyperscalers. We want to simplify complex problems, but turn them into elegant solutions. We talk a lot about simplicity in Civo. I don't believe we should be in a world where we have all this complexity around us. So as an example, you can spin up a Kubernetes cluster in 90 seconds in Civo versus about 30 minutes in Amazon, as one simple example. We strive for excellence through continuous improvement. I'm always challenging the team, and we're challenging each other to continuously improve and look for the best possible solution. We prioritize integrity, transparency, and trust in all our actions. So we talk a lot, again, about accountability for actions, and I'd like you guys to hold us accountable. I'm standing up here saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but I want to be held accountable to our actions. And we want to make a positive impact and do the right thing and be role models for future generations, and that's something that we're encouraging our teams to be role models, and I think that's really important. And what we do, it's pretty simple. We engineer cloud products that enable our customers to innovate and scale with ease, empowering them or you to build the future. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Dinesh, who's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Mark. These things that Mark has been talking about is really at the heart of everything that we do at Civo. And just picking out one, which is close to my heart and that I brought and really try and build into the team every day, is that I want Civo to get out of your way. So I don't want to build a cloud that means that you have to always be thinking about what we're doing, about how you can use Civo to get the best out of your product. Because I truly believe that that's what you should be doing when you're building products. You should be looking for problems to solve, getting out of the way of your customers, because you all have great problems in your lives, great solutions that you want to bring to the world, and that's what you should be focusing on every day. So by us getting out of your way, you can get out of your customer's way and keep building value in the world and giving the world back a better place than we leave it in. I want to do a quick demo of how we're doing that and show you around what we've built. So I've got up here our dashboard, and we're putting that cross-transparency front and center. So as soon as you come onto the dashboard, you've got the price of how much you owe this month, how much your last invoice was, so that you've got that full control up ahead and straight in front of you. Going into simplicity, so Kubernetes is our core product, so we've put it top and center. And I'll touch along a bit later why I think Kubernetes is going to be a real game changer in all of the products that we're building. And hopefully coming to a cloud native conference, you believe that as well. Building Kubernetes is a really complex process. You've got to talk about control planes, you've got worker nodes, you've got scheduling decisions to make. And we try and simplify that all down into a single page. So we've got here a name, which is optional. I think something that one of the team that's recently joined us is really envisioning is sensible defaults. And it means that if you are building a project and you forget to give a name, we're not going to come back and give you an error. We're going to give it a random name and get out of your way. Coming down again, we've got a handful of options. We've got some firewall rules going into that security by default as well, of making sure that you are set up for success and not leaving things open when you shouldn't be, and giving you hints along the way. One of the other things I'm really proud about is our marketplace. So we have over 100 CNCF applications that are in the cluster ready to go. So when you have that lunch break and you've heard a great session here today and you go, I really want to try GitLab, I really want to try Kube first, rather than you having to worry about what this is, how do I install it, where is the documentation for that, our marketplace allows you to one-click install and go ahead. The other thing we do about cost transparency here, we've got the pricing that you're going to pay, $15 a month. And this dynamically updates, so if you choose a different node size, you come down and it's $30 a month. We've got rid of egress fees as well, so we know that you know that what the price is every month is going to be unless you enact a change. We've got other features on here as well that you'd expect, compute, object storage. I won't go into too much detail. We've recently launched our database, managed database service that the Wi-Fi will eventually come up with. And AI is absolutely huge with what we're doing at the moment as well. So we have got NVIDIA GPUs in the data center in London and New York and coming to our Frankfurt site soon, that allows you to start building AI-based applications. And we think that that's going to be in three ways. Either the leave me alone, I know what I'm doing, raw GPUs. Josh has got an exciting announcement of what we're doing next that I'll leave in the middle. And then we've also got Kubeflow as well. Kubeflow is a wraparound for data scientists building workflows and training jobs so that you can start building data pipelines that run on demand. Talking about sustainability as well, these GPUs we know are really energy intensive. So Kubeflow is allowing you to say, hey, I want to run this job every Monday. Once it's finished, scale down that GPU and stop consuming electricity. As well as running all of this through the UI, we've got a really, really simple Terraform provider as well. So I'm going to run you through a quick demo of creating a Kubernetes cluster. We've basically got one resource up here that is going through to create a cluster. So very, very simple, mirrors a lot of what we've seen in the UI of those sensible options, sensible defaults that allow you to get running. And these known after applies are that indication that I've not had to give this a lot of information before it goes up and running. So if we come over here now, we should see that that cluster is running. If I'm in the right account. There we go. So that has come up, triggered that build, and is running along here. And we should see that coming up in 90 seconds. So compared to some of the other providers where you've got, I think it's about 90 resources to get up and running a Kubernetes cluster, we've got that one resource, we've got a network resource, and a firewall that will go through and get created. 90 seconds seems very much slower than when you're up on stage. The internet's not great. Old cables, yeah. So while this is building, so we do have regions out in Germany. We've got a data center out in Frankfurt that has got all of the capabilities that we're talking about. We've got 2 sites over in the US. We've got New York and we've got Phoenix. And we've got a site in the UK that is our main site. And then we've got another site in partnership with Deep Green. That's a really exciting opportunity that we've got that we're rolling out later. There we go. So that's up and running. We've put out the kubeconfig. Anyone really good at writing down base64 really, really quickly? This cluster, I promise, will be gone in about an hour's time. So make the most of this. We'll get the nodes here as well. So there are the 3 nodes that we were looking for. And then we'll go our way and we will create a database as well. So that was the, I went a bit quickly, but that was the database config as well. So this is now going away and creating a database. I've got this up here because depending on how well the demos go, Josh may or may not be using this database. So try and do a multi-phase demo here and get this up and running and be used later. Go back to the slides, please. So it's very easy for us to come up here and say it, but we've had some really great users that have been using Civo and building awesome products on Civo. A few of them are sponsors downstairs, and definitely recommend you go away and talk to them and see why they have chosen to build on Civo and to solve their customer problems with us. I think it's really exciting when we come in front of sponsors. I get to talk to users that are not always the, hey, something's gone wrong, but look at this amazing product that I've built. Look at these solutions that I am creating on top of Civo. So Civo Stack Enterprise is the core of what we have built, and everything in that demo that I've showed you is also available for you to use in your own data centers as well. So today, we're really excited to be launching a software-only product that we're calling Civo Stack Enterprise that has a simple licensing solution. It runs on your own hardware and integrates with either hyperconverged hardware or SANs that you already have on site. I'm doing a talk tomorrow about Broadcom and VMware, and I think that's driven a real shift in the market over the past 12 months. And Civo Stack Enterprise is our kind of solution to that, that's allowing you to get a public cloud experience while reusing hardware. So yeah, if you want to hear more about our VMware replacement, attend that session tomorrow. And we believe that the cloud should be delivered how you want it. So it's all very great having these big centralized data centers that are multi-tenanted and available to be used like hyperscalers or Civo data centers. And that's the public cloud. So if you don't need that hardware, you're not ready to make that investment, you can just use some resources, use it really, really simply, and then give it back at the end of the hour, at the end of the day, and allow someone else to use those resources. And I think that's the really empowering thing about public cloud, is that you've not got some hardware sitting there using through its life cycle and not being used. Public cloud, when done right, allows that scalability of your own workload and efficient use of the hardware that we have in the world. Civo Stack is also able to be deployed in your private cloud. So if you do need to have that and you have workload that you know is going to be running constantly in your own data center, we're allowing you to have this public cloud-like experience internally. So similar to like an internal developer platform, but more focused on enabling infrastructure. Then we've got our software-only product to be installed on existing hardware, and we've got our edge appliances as well that are allowed to be used in more challenging areas. So it's all well and great talking about a new cloud provider, but moving between providers is a real challenge, and Mark touched on it with the egress costs as well, right? So having your data locked into a single provider means that if you can't make these good decisions, and you can no longer take your FTP files and move them off somewhere else. So we're committed to be building some migration tools that allow you to move between providers. And that also means away from Civo as well. So our zero egress fees means that if, for whatever reason, you decide that actually we need to have data in a different region, we need to go off onto a private cloud, we need to move this to an edge because we're running inference now inside a location that needs it, we're building tools that will allow you to do that and seamlessly move between data centers and regions. And this is going to be my big announcement is our FlexCore appliances. So these are turnkey hardware appliances, all powered by Civo Stack Enterprise, that are ready to go into your data center. So as you're going through hardware refresh cycles and you go, right, we want to do a cloud transformation journey, start using Kubernetes, start using object storage and managed databases, our FlexCore appliances will land in site, you plug them in with power and network, and then off they go, and they're ready to run. And our FlexCore appliances are also GPU-enabled. So as you are starting to build language models, as you are starting to build inferencing that requires access to local data, our FlexCore appliances are turnkey and ready to go. On that note, I would love to talk more and more about all of the GPU things that we're doing, but I'm going to steal so much of Josh's thunder. So I'm going to invite him up here to talk about some great products that we're doing.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. So I think one of the really exciting things we do at Civo is do things differently. And actually a little bit of what Mark has been talking about is how our strategy is aligned towards the future. And what Dinesh is showing is how these products massively differentiate from hyperscalers and competitors. And what I'd really like you to walk away from today with is actually how these make a difference to you starting to build machine learning and AI applications. I think what becomes really interesting is actually the products we've built seem to be scaled for tomorrow's problems, where a lot of the current hyperscaler solutions are very focused on the solution architecture they designed 10 years ago. And I think one of the really interesting pressing forefronts that we have right now, particularly with some of the surveys that we've seen, is people want to have control over their workloads and people want to exit public cloud. And actually, there's a very limited number of computing paradigms that let you really do that. And what we're really excited to do differently at Civo is actually give that control to you as consumers and customers. And as Dinesh mentioned with GPU FlexCore, which is one of the very simple appliances you can install in your data center and have a fully working private cloud up in minutes, we want to complement that with obviously our public cloud offerings, things like GPU instances that start in under 90 seconds. Really give the serverless feel around what they're doing and actually give you the full power of NVIDIA A100s and H100 GPUs. They make amazing workplace environments. You can be able to run code inside them, train models. But if you need to be able to scale, we offer seamless pathways where you can start using our GPU clusters, start to manage the scalability. Includes things like scale to 0, and then also attaching node pools as your workload increases. And these are important from both a cost-saving point of view, but then also touching on these sustainability points. Not losing, valuable resources or valuable electricity because we're oversizing workloads. And I think one of the things that other providers have been afraid almost to do at this risk of losing revenue is things like fractional GPUs. Everyone knows these GPUs are getting larger, powering more powerful models. But actually, what are the options you can have to be able to use a fraction of that GPU, be able to use half or a quarter to run a smaller model, and actually have a fabulous cost saving alongside doing the right thing around right-sizing your workload. And I think these are things that we're trying to do to be very approachable to your types of problems and understanding. And like Dinesh mentioned, these are the tools that we know you know how to use best and what we can do behind them to really enable the workloads that you want to run. To move from hardware to software, an incredibly exciting product that we're happy to announce today is actually Relax AI. And one of the things that Relax does really well is actually protect your privacy and security. And underneath that, the different deployment possibilities we offer inside Civo really make that possible. When I speak to customers, and I have the pleasure of speaking to our customers very often, when we ask them why they're not deploying large-scale AI workloads, they talk to us about governance, they talk to us about compliance. They say, there's no way I'm going to get some of my legal compliance teams to let me run these types of data, run these types of algorithms in the public cloud without scrupulous oversight. So actually being able to run these large language models where you want to run them, as opposed to where you're being told to run them, built on the backs of some of the most powerful open source models that we've recently seen overtake things like ChatGPT. We've seen things overtake Claude. And also a commitment for us to be able to be aligned to that open source moving forward, not locking you into a proprietary standard, but then most importantly, aligning with these incoming AI regulations, ensuring that we do some of that compliance heavy lifting for you and just give you a product that can massively increase your productivity. And we're looking at launching this later in the year. We've got a couple of private beta testers that we're trialing. And actually being able to run these huge 400 billion parameter models in dedicated environments is proving a really interesting use case. If you've got some problems that you think this can solve, come find us and we can have a chat. So hands up if you've used Civo yourself. I'm glad to see a couple of customers. Fantastic. So a number of people already using Civo for GPU compute will be aware of our Deep Green region. If you're not, our Deep Green region's an amazing product that we've built in collaboration with the Deep Green company. They're an organization designed around building the data center of the future and what the carbon impact for that would look like and how sustainability can be core in running ubiquitous computing clusters in the future. And actually, the Deep Green region, which is live on Civo right now, uses entirely renewable energy. That gets fed in to power NVIDIA A100 GPUs, which themselves are immersion cooled in mineral oil. That mineral oil does two things. It cools the GPUs to reduce the temperature. It does that to a degree much more efficient than air cooling. But then also that mineral oil is connected to a heat exchanger. And the excess heat inside that heat exchanger is being used to heat a UK council swimming pool instead of using a boiler. That results in some amazing ROI, but also some amazing opportunities to reduce the carbon impact we will make. 25.8 tons of carbon emissions reduced, $20,000 worth of electricity costs being used to power that, and actually 96% of the energy being used to power those GPUs is being transferred back into heat. And I think the commitment we make to start to do things differently, I think, becomes very clear when you look at the partnerships we're making. If this interests you, there's a panel tomorrow on sustainability with the Deep Green guys on it. They'd love to take questions around that, and we think it's a really innovative product. So I think just to round out before I pass back to Mark is we're really investing in these technology areas that our customers tell us are important to them. And actually, we're always happy to listen to both the community, so the events we run like Civo Navigate, but then also the customers and the accounts we have who are facing these huge problems. And obviously, at the forefront of that is AI and machine learning. I think we've seen very much so that being a growth area and where we're at. And we're looking at how you start to solve the core problems of that around compute, how you do that in a sustainable way, and also how we don't make it too complicated, an already complex discipline. Hybrid and multi-cloud with things like FlexCore and being able to give you tools to do that. The competitors' entry costs for some of those tools can hit as high as $150,000. We want to see what we can do differently around that. Edge compute to start to be more distributed around the types of compute we're making, and we're hearing loud and clear that's a requirement from our customers. WebAssembly and the amazing ecosystem that's coming through with that. I think great examples of that are some of the companies like Fermion we have here today. Confidential computing, in addition to sovereignty, we're seeing privacy and data security being key in what we're doing driving forward. And then obviously new regions to continuously expand. And I think when we do expand, it's in line with the customer's requirements and being able to make sure that we're really building the data center that's 5 to 10 years ahead of our competitors. I'll pass back over to Mark. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I guess, hopefully you understand a little bit about how Civo's reimagining cloud computing. From the sustainability, the initiatives that we're doing with Deep Green, I know they've launched in the UK, but they have big aspirations to launch more data centers around Europe and the US as well. So we can actually really make sure we take that heat and reuse it and put it to good use. That's really important to us. In terms of the way all the hardware that we use currently as well has always been open compute hardware, which is very focused on sustainability and reduction in cost. We only buy green energy as well, so those things are really close to our heart. And then when it comes to things like, we always encourage our team to innovate and always look for that new innovation that can actually improve the service, but look for innovative ways of creating sustainability and simplifying things and making things a lot easier for people. So those are really key to us. But the last one is the being open. I think, I talked about trust. I don't think there's a lot of trust in the kind of hyperscalers. There's not a lot of openness. There's a lot of stuff that's hidden charges and nickel and diming and all that kind of stuff that's going on. And I think we should be in a world where the power is given back to the consumer, you as the customer, and you have that freedom to move where you want. If you're not happy with Civo, you can move to someone else. Hopefully you will be happy with Civo, but you should have that freedom. And it should be really about who has the best performance, who has the best reliability, who has the best customer service, and it shouldn't be about lock-in. So we believe in an open future, backing the best of open standards, open source technologies, things like that, and that's what we believe in, what the cloud should be. As I said, I've got another talk on that tomorrow, so if you come tomorrow morning, I can talk a little bit more about that. But thank you for listening. Hope you found it enjoyable. I think it's time for lunch now, so thanks very much.